Hello everyone and welcome to the E-Commerce Edge How to Thrive in 2025 Implementation webinar series. I'm Lucia from Dello Insights, and in winter I interviewed 21 e-commerce experts and asked them what they'd learned from using their data last year they're put into practice this year in their business. The report got released in April and it's on my website. The website address is www.delloinsights.com. I then persuaded all the experts to take part in a series of webinars explaining how to implement the tip into your business. Today I'm joined by Dan Bond from RevLifter and Tony Berry from the Payment Guru, and I'm very excited because they're going to give you all tips all about how to boost your conversion and retention rates. Would you like to introduce yourselves, Dan and Tony, and then just give us your tip?
Sure. Shall I go first, Tony? Yeah. Okay. So, hi, I'm Dan from RevLifter. So, RevLifter, we do what we call intelligent offers. So that's offers, deals, promotions, discounts for retailers, but using behavioural data to use them intelligently, using them when you need to and not when you don't.
Thank you.
It's great. And Tony Berry, I'm CEO and founder of Payment Guru. So we are a payment consultancy and broker. Also integrating or setting up some of our own technical solutions at this time. But yeah, we help businesses improve how they're taking their payments, the payment journey, and save money.
Lovely, thank you. Right, would you like to remind everyone of what your tip was, Tony?
My tip is that cash, it's no longer that data, can't get this one out. So people say that cash is king, but in fact I would say data is king.
Thank you. And Dan, what was your tip?
That's a very good question. What was my tip? Have you got it? Have you got it in hand? I realised there's one thing I haven't put on my notes.
It was to use data and machine learning to optimise promotions by tracking redemption behaviour and lifetime values.
That sounds exactly right.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Well, going back to you, Tony, let's start with you and let's spend the next few minutes talking about it. So what do customers really want from an omnichannel experience?
I think mostly it's just a case that they want to feel that it is one in the same. So that's a lot easier said than done, but it's to actually just feel that the whole experience is seamless. The most obvious one to come to mind is often returns, so that they're able to take things back in store that they bought online. But I think the thing that's most often not recognised is things like the identification and the recognition of that individual. And of course then, pushing loyalty, certain offers and things that are actually bespoke to that individual rather than it just being a faceless experience.
Lovely. So really about integrating, if you're going in the store or if you're online, bringing that experience together. That's the thing that customers are actively looking for now.
Yeah, and I think it's obviously I approach these things often with a payment hat on, but I think the payment companies seem to feel that it's just a case of having a single payment gateway and a single way to do that. But there's also, there's a hell of a lot more to it. And again, it's actually using that properly. So just because you've got the same payment gateway, well, the logic there is you can identify your customer by their card, you can see their journey. Obviously from a data and analytics and insight point of view, that's critical. But just do even more with it. If you can understand what they're spending, what they're buying, or sometimes even more importantly, what they're not buying, or what they buy in store and not online, understanding this and actually using that data can get you far, far better results. But again, similar to what Dan would do online, you can start doing these things in store as well. So why not serve up a targeted offer to that person at checkout, be it online or in store? And again, this is where most businesses don't do this. We've got the technology now, terminals are Android, you can deliver messages immediately. There's very, very few businesses that are literally saying like, hi Lucia, thank you for coming back. Yeah, and again, that's the sort of messaging that could be super powerful, super unique, and makes that customer feel super special.
Are there any companies, although you're saying they're not getting there yet, Tony, are there any that you're seeing are making progress in this area, are really trying to, tackle this experience or with some success? Or?
I've got to be honest and say probably not to the way that I would personally sort of advise doing it. So like I say, to have that super personalised, there are a few solutions now to push offers at checkout, but they're far more basic. That said, there's a few things that I'm seeing in the pipeline that are coming down, but it's not the merchants that are doing it, it's the parties who are trying to do this. But there's technology and ways to do it. It can be from a simple just money off, or again you could do a very, very targeted offer, push something out, be it on the receipt, be it on I like to say on the actual live device. But yeah, there's definitely ways and means to do it, but some of this stuff is fairly embryonic, mostly because although Android terminals have been with us probably now for, in some cases, 5 years, well, I should say more than that, but I think for the wide adoption, they've probably only been widely adopted for the last 5 years, probably now with some of the tech catching up only in the last couple of years.
That's quite interesting, isn't it? Because I know the stores hold the majority of the data, but then they've also got all their processes, their systems already. As you're kind of saying, almost the payment gateways can get in behind from a different process, can't they? And then feed it in rather than starting with the store. So, it doesn't then affect the...
I think the big thing is that, unfortunately, many businesses just silo these. So the online and the in-store are seen as completely different businesses. Often even at a C-level in the business, the executive is a completely different person. They don't see the other person. They don't have enough insight and overlap with them. Ultimately, if you're a strong business and you're performing in both areas, you need to work in both areas and have them working in conjunction. But yeah, I've often seen it in many instances that the person who deals with that side of the business isn't the same as this one. They've often got different metrics, different KPIs. And yeah, the data is often it's very anonymised, unfortunately, in store, and that's something we would certainly advise businesses to try and move away from as much as possible.
But at the same time, though, we also see the physical stores do some really good things that online doesn't do as well. Have you got any instances of those?
Yeah, well, I think in terms of the physical store, so many of the good practices we don't actually recognise. I know that probably sounds really silly, but it's some of the things are so obvious that you only see them when somebody's not doing it. So bold, bright displays, having things that are engaging, getting people in, making it easy to find what you're actually going to want in the store. But these things obviously overlap perfectly with online as well. If you've not got a really easy to navigate, let's just call it store, be it online or in person, people don't come to you. Or they can't find what they want, they walk in, they walk out, and job done. But again, if you've got it set up right, if you've got, and again I say this for store, meaning both instances, it really needs to be engaging shop front, easy to find what you're looking for, so great search functions, easy to find what you want, and a really easy checkout process. So in store, that's obviously just don't have big queues. If that means more till points, more queue busting, ways to pay, people now can pay on their own phone. They could walk out the store with the item then and there. Again, so they could almost self-checkout if you do these systems correctly. And again, that's where if you've got that omni-channel solution and ways to do things, click and collect, these are all things that can really, really make life a lot easier for a customer. Or again, one of the newer technologies is you could have a QR code everywhere around a store, and instead of having the in-store experience is just an item on a shelf, that QR code can link to an influencer's sub-website. They can see the item being tried on, they can see it out in the field, but it may be in a field. It's just to have those glossy marketing images with your favourite influencer and why you've gone to that brand. Again, it's having that brilliance of bringing the online in-store and the in-store online. But again, often very much overlooked. But again, we've got AI, we've got various things now that can make these things happen. But I think at the moment these are kind of buzzwords where a lot of the industry needs to actually start investing money and looking at some of these quite seriously.
I think they overlook friction around the online payment process. I know that there can be a problem with the friction, can't there? Where if you ask for too many questions or if the address matching isn't working, that customers get a very bad experience.
It is a balancing act. I always found it quite odd when there was a big push for Magento back in the day that everyone wanted the one-page checkout. One-page checkout is great if your checkout is well structured, laid out. A one-page checkout can be brilliant, but it can also be a major setback. But then equally, if you've got too many checkout steps, I think we've all probably been, especially on mobile, with some people's websites, it's going to like 3 or 4 hops. People's interest drops at every single click. As you rightly point out, the more people feel they're giving data that is not needed, just feels painful. So I think personally, I certainly will go for a guest checkout more so than I will do set up an account, etc., etc. I think the key to it is if you don't need that data and you don't need someone to set up an account, don't push people down this route. There's ways and means to have asked the right level of questioning, and there's a balancing act to this. So test your websites. Don't just send it into the ether and hope things work. Market test them. See what gets the better response with A to B testing, rather than just assuming things. But yeah, I mean, there's obviously great things like Apple Pay, Google Pay. You can reduce the friction at your website. Although I should stress again, as a payment professional, sometimes friction at the checkout is also a positive. So again, your 3D secure settings and what payment values you're asking for friction, these are things now that we can dictate a lot more than we used to be able to. But yeah, I mean, if you're a business that has everything is £2,000 and above, I would advise friction is a good thing on payment. If everything is £5, £10, £20, you want as low friction as possible because it's all about the mass. So yeah, it's understanding again some basics about you, your audience, and where you're pitching, whether it's mostly going to be on a mobile, whether it's on a laptop, and how you're making the sales. But yeah, just understand, as you rightly point out, where friction is good or bad, and use it accordingly.
I think as a data person you want to capture all that data, but if your data you're capturing actually reduces in the conversions, then you're far better off doing a post-purchase survey or something like that, aren't you? Or sort of survey that way, trying to get them in their way, and then you can get the data and they're already engaged with you. Whereas if it's the first time you're on a website, you think, should I buy or not? If there's a pain to do it, it's like, no, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, checkout abandonment's a big thing, and sometimes it's also not what you'd expect. So this is why the A to B testing is really useful. I think, I can speak certainly from personal experience. If the first time I'm seeing your delivery charge is on the checkout page and it's the same amount as what my order cost, I'm probably exiting your website at that point. Equally, if you've got free delivery, shout it from the rooftops. So yeah, presenting things too late in the checkout process and not making it clear what is good, bad or indifferent about you as a business, you again can lose people. But yeah, I think it's getting people to the checkout page as smoothly and easily as possible, but without whilst making sure they can make an informed decision. But yeah, definitely a balancing act.
Lovely, thank you. I'm just going to finish by asking you a little bit about retention. What can the payment providers, help with retention on this part, loyalty or?
Again, it's the payment providers themselves generally don't have the solutions for this, but they can. So some of the things we've started investigating ourselves as a business, ways and means of tokenising that card, ensuring that you can see it again in store, well, I should just say omni-channel, pushing targeted offers at the point of checkout. But no, the actual card processors have been largely very slow to adopt these things. Some of the larger processors and the more advanced ones, like the Stripes and the Adyen's, they allow the payment data and the APIs to be consumed a lot more, so it's in the hands of the merchant. But yeah, it's certainly something we've identified as a business, and one or two of our partners have. And yeah, we see that there's a definite opportunity for that data to be consumed, served up to the merchant. Most merchants haven't got the ability to do this themselves. They need someone to lead it for them, and again, we feel that actually the payment company should be the one leading that charge.
Right, look forward to seeing that happening then over the next few years. Thank you, Tony.
Thank you.
So now heading on to you, Dan. Obviously you talk in your tip, which we know so well, all about the machine learning and tracking the redemptions and optimising.
Yeah.
But really I was going to start with really bad ones. What are the worst ones you see around the market where it just doesn't work, the tips and the offers,
Yeah, they all the worst promotions, worst offers, all sit around the same thing, which is the lack of thought that's gone into them. So our big thing is, what typically happens with the retailer. You're heading towards the end of an accounting period. You're coming towards, a target you've got to hit. You're not going to hit it, so you immediately just think, well, let's reach for the discounting. And our suggestion, if you like, our process that we're trying to get retailers to think about is start to think about discounting and promotions more strategically rather than just using them as an afterthought. So, yeah, the sort of three examples that sort of come top of mind are the 20% off everything, so site-wide. Sometimes that's appropriate. If you've got a sale period and you're trying to sell off old stock, then it's perfectly valid to do a 20% off everything. But largely they're used, a bit unintelligently. You're not personalising them. You're not thinking about the intent of the visitors. You're not thinking anything about personalising those for the different kinds of visitors you have and where they've come from and that sort of thing. The one that's a personal bugbear for me is the kind of email sign up with a new customer offer where it's 10% off if you sign up for emails or 10% off your first purchase, and people just do that because all the retailers do it. But you really need to think, is that the best incentive? Could we test that? Could we try different incentives? Could it be higher? Could it be lower? What impact does that have? And then lastly, the sort of, we do a lot of exit intent stuff. So yeah, people who are going to leave the site, can we offer them an incentive to get them to stay? But again, it's if you offer the same thing just to everybody, doesn't matter sort of where they are in the funnel or what their intent level is, then again, you're probably giving away money when you don't need to. So yeah, it's just that thing of using them with no sort of intelligence, no thought of personalisation, no thought about what the audience was trying to do, why they were on your site. That's the sort of thing I would push back on.
What about sites where you see they were always on offer, like going into the high street, certain shops always got 50% off. Some sites just seem to always have a sale, and their promotion basics the fact that they're never going to sell anything at the full price, but instead they're always going to discount. And they built that into their margins. Is that good or not from your point of view?
Well, it depends. Yeah, you have different kinds of retailers, right? So I was at an event the other day speaking to someone from TK Maxx, and I kind of love the purity of their model, which is essentially you just keep reducing the price of things until they sell. And it's a very brutal, simple model. But I think there's an important lesson in there for retailers, which is, stuff that's sat in like all retailers, if you have the sort of Pareto principle, if you have a big load of products in your inventory, could be like 1,000, say, is a nice simple example, and you're probably selling sort of, about 80 of those on a regular basis. People will pay full price, and you sell a lot of those, and you've got this huge underneath, bottom of the iceberg, under the sea of products that nobody's buying. And so those things, you just need to get them moving and figure out at what price point do you start to see demand meeting supply, so you can sell more of that product, and then leave alone those products you sell a lot of. So yeah, it's fine to have some things you discount a lot and some things you don't, but just think about it and think about what's your strategic position on discounting. When do you do it and not do it? When's the right time? What's the right products to do it on? Think about all those things.
So it's really having this whole approach rather than a whole approach. Where is your marketing strategy going to go and where will the office be? So you're actually trying to plan that out, and then you're actually planning rather than reacting to what's happening in your warehouse. In a way, you're almost trying to think ahead, aren't you? And then. Yeah,
you're getting into trading, right? It's factoring it into your trading calendar, and it's surprising how many companies we speak to. They haven't even thought about a discounting position for their brand. Like, what is your brand's position to discounting? Some brands, premium brands, tend to say we just don't do it at all, and you have some who are, we're a low cost retailer, so we discount a lot. But a lot of companies just haven't really thought about when do we use it and when do we not? What is our stance on it? What is the right level? What margin are we prepared to sacrifice or not? So just having that conversation and thinking about that is a good place to start.
And then you've got the data science behind you, then the machine learning in terms of actually what the office should be. So once they've kind of know where they're going to get to, you're then providing that kind of solution, aren't you? So.
Yeah, exactly. So understanding what's going on in your site. So yeah, once you've figured out your position, it's then, right, when can we discount, when shouldn't we? I've kind of got this slight ambition to try and completely get rid of the site-wide sale, because I think you could get to the point where you don't need it at all, because in your standard trading calendar, you know when your promotions are happening, when the products need to be promoted, when customers need a promotion to get them over the line. That's a much better way to go about your promotions than just using them when you really have to.
So if a company or a retailer decides they want to go, for a more kind of data science-based approach to work out what the discount levels should be, what it should be offering, is there a minimum volume or size or turnover they need to be, or is it a particular sector? How would it work typically if a company said, right, I'm going to change what I'm doing, and I think I'll get the money back for paying for a product in terms of the money I'm saving?
Yeah, I mean it's a bit of it varies by retailer, right? The main thing it's all about data volumes in terms of obviously what we're trying to do is take a bit of a test and learn approach and see what works and what starts to drive more sales for you. Whether we can increase the AOV, what the sacrifice is there in terms of margins. So it's a bit of a question that's sort of unique to a retailer depending on I think as Tony was saying, you've got retailers who high consideration purchases, big cost price, big ticket items. They take a while. It takes a long time for someone to decide if they're going to buy that product, and you've got things that sell pretty quickly and you can sell in high volume and happen pretty fast. So it depends on things like that. That factors into how long do we need to be gathering data on your site before we can do something, work out what is the right intervention that's going to make a difference. So it kind of varies, but there is a bottom floor in terms of you need to have a reasonable volume of traffic and reasonable volume of conversions to be able to optimize it, basically.
Yeah, that kind of makes sense, doesn't it? So, and would you run the same promotions all the time, or would you be varying them? In terms of once you set up all your promotions, does it then get optimised, or does it stay the same? Or
it's like any other marketing tactic, really. There are evergreen things like the exits. Like we always think it's worth running exits, and then it's all about optimising those exits to figure out what is the best offer to use at the appropriate time and the appropriate point in the funnel. But also, as part of your trading calendar, it's good to do promotions around specific activities around, if you've got Easter, obviously Christmas, Valentine's Day, Black Friday. These are all great times to run offers as well. So as I say, it's that trading calendar. It's when does it make sense? When's it appropriate? End of season for fashion retailers. Obviously, they've got things to get rid of. It's factoring that into your trading calendar, just like you factor everything else on all your campaigns and activity.
So would you normally start with just one offer, or would you start with 2 or 3 at once? Do you have to separate and isolate the offers, or can you put them at different points based on the process state if you've got a post-consideration one? And
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, you can run as many as you like at once, but what we typically say is I'd start somewhere simple, get some initial offers in. So exit offers are a great place to start seeing how they're working. Then you can look to optimize. Then you can add more offers in over time. So you might want to add in an email sign up, a new customer, and then over time, eventually you'll build up this quite complex pattern. And then you're dropping in, offers that run only at specific times, limited times, trying to get people over the line, running up to special holiday seasons or whatever. So you can end up running hundreds of offers across your site, but it's all about that making that decision about who sees them and who doesn't at what particular time.
Interesting. So in terms of your seasonal offers, I know it's May, so let's start talking about Christmas.
Yeah, obviously.
When do they start planning these Black Friday offers? Typically in the life cycle, is it being done now, or is it September?
I mean it's super early in the year people start thinking about it. So I mean, but the typical thing again, it's trying to elevate the thinking a little bit. So people will be thinking, right, Black Friday, what we do about Black Friday, it's a big offer. You know about Christmas, but it's saying, okay, what could you actually do around in peak? Peak is such a high volume part of the year. It's a great time to run tests. It's a great time to run experiments because you get a high volume of data, so you can get to some conclusions much faster than you can the rest of the year. The other thing we do a lot, actually, we're asked to do a lot in peak, is just accelerate performance. So people already know they're going to have high level of performance over peak, but we can add more offers onto their existing offers and accelerate that performance even more in certain product segments if that's one that they want to see happen. But we would suggest having a year planned out, all your offers you're going to have, what's appropriate, what are the occasions. We've worked with some US retailers on some geo-specific stuff as well, so offers that only appear in certain states based on the fact that they've got spring break coming up. Or I found out there's something in the Hamptons called the White Party. I had to look into this. I was very confused by the whole thing, but apparently it's a thing, and you could run promotions for it specifically on the East Coast. So it's just planning out that whole calendar and right from the start of the year, and really thinking about what you're going to do during the year, and then execute against that plan and see what impact that has.
So is it the marketing department? Because one thing in my head is, the marketing department are over here, then the finance person says, no, we need to get rid of this stock, therefore you suddenly, drop the prices, and you've set up the promotion before. Who in the whole business needs to be responsible and overseeing it?
Yeah, so we typically sit between the e-commerce performance team. So there's typically, an e-commerce director or someone who's responsible for e-commerce performance. And then there's marketing, who usually sits sort of slightly to the side of that. And then there's trading. Often in larger retailers, you'll also have trading. It obviously depends how big the retailer is. But we'll sit across those people. The accounting line, the reporting line into finance, typically is one we help with in terms of putting together a business case. So again, if you're testing, if you're learning, if you can prove the value, if you can show incremental revenue and what you're achieving using offers, you can then use that to put together a business case to put in front of more senior people, so people in finance, the CEO, whoever's accountable for it ultimately. So we can help put together a business case for them. But yeah, it's company wide. In really large retailers as well, you'll have brand people who are responsible for brand, and they're very, very keen on keeping an eye on when do you run an offer and when do you not. Is that something that sits within the brand? So the fact that we can help to make a case to say, well, actually, if you use offers intelligently, you can reduce the damage to brand value because you're not showing those offers as widely as you would be otherwise. Those sort of things can just help build a business case. So it gets across a lot of the people who are responsible for performance in the retailer.
And the monitoring that you do, or the reporting, you kind of, what would you report on then? You report on the expected value that you're saving for the business, or the number of offers being taken up, or how does that work?
So absolutely. So obviously we report on the basics, conversions, AOV, are those going up or down, and you're looking for trade-offs in those things. But then incremental revenue, are we actually driving additional sales that wouldn't have happened anyway? We're looking at whether they're being redeemed. The offers that you're offering, are they being redeemed? Are people taking up on these offers? How many are? What's the sort of conversion rate from there? And ultimately, yes, what we're looking to do by using offers intelligently is say, if you show this offer site-wide, that would have given you this revenue but would have reduced your profit margin by this. But can we show you that by using them intelligently, we can increase we can show you a saving, basically. It's cost you a lot less to get those increases in conversions and AOV. So for example, we did that we got a customer, Radley London, and one of our customers, premium accessories retailer, and we increased their conversion rate by about 15%, AOV was up by about 20%, but we reduced the cost by about 8%. So they're seeing the improvements in performance they want, but it's costing them less. So it becomes a kind of an efficiency metric and a way of measuring that you're achieving what you want to, but it's costing you less money and it's costing you less margin.
Because it's still the same cost of bringing someone to the website in the first place, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's just that they're then spending more when they're there, which is obviously a saving for them, isn't it?
Exactly, yeah, and not everyone necessarily is seeing that offer. So you might decide, we worked with, I remember one customer we had wanted to optimize PPC traffic because they were paying a lot for PPC traffic that was landing and was converting at roughly the same rate as most of their other traffic. So we used promotions to target PPC traffic in particular, and we could try and enhance that traffic and figure out what that traffic was looking for. How could we help them? Could we find the right incentive to convert them? So there's all these sort of things which are very apparent about the traffic, where they are in the funnel, where they come from, what they're looking at. But there's also the sort of, can we figure out how likely they are to buy by observing their behaviour as well.
So do you go down to the level of what channel they've come through, if they've visited the website before? Do you go into that much detail with it?
Yeah, you could have new versus returning is quite a classic segmentation we'll look at when first working with a customer. So have these people been on your site before? How they come back? Are they looking at the same products? Are they showing that that's a classic sign of intent, is someone's looking at the same products again and again, same categories, and then you could target offers specifically for repeat visitors rather than new visitors. But there's lots of there's loads of different data points. Obviously, what products people are looking at, what brands, what categories, where they've come from, how long they've been on your site, and there's obviously using that data because it's observable. You can see those kind of segments and build on those. But then also you can what we do is take all that data, all that different those different data points, and use that as a way to calculate a predicted likelihood they're going to buy in the background using machine learning, and then we can target offers on that basis as well. So there's different ways to target people and figure out who's going to do what.
Is it Amazon? Is it right that if you go on Amazon, then you go off and look again, often puts a price up for your product because it knows that you want to look at it? Is that true?
They might do. Dynamic pricing is a thing. Obviously, there was a big story about that. I always bring up the example of the Oasis tickets. That was a big story that we had a very, very negative backlash for dynamic pricing because the prices were going up. I think you have to be very careful with things like that. We sort of advocate for dynamic promotions rather than dynamic pricing because that way you're only ever dropping a price. You'll never. I think the big challenge I always say with the Oasis thing is, they basically priced it too low, and then they had to try and raise the prices when they realised demand was far higher. So it's a much better position to be in, to be saying, let's set a high price, a price where we think we can sell this for a premium price, and then work to reduce that if demand is too low. That's a much better place to be in, rather than thinking we want to try and put this price up because we've undersold it. So thinking about pricing, thinking about promotions is a whole thing in itself when it comes to, it's really at a product level.
And that must affect as well if you're on the more luxury end of the scale. Obviously, it's more important to you with that approach. Whereas
Yeah,
if you're starting quite basic, then planning to move up the scale, you've got the opposite strategy probably.
Exactly, yeah. Much harder to go up than it is to go down. But yeah, again, being careful about it so you're not just showing discounts to everybody and you become known as a discounter. It's trying to, I think Tony was saying, and I'd echo that, it's all about balance, right? It's all about figuring out where that sweet spot is in order to make sure your performance is where you want it to be, basically.
Well, that's a really good point to finish. Thank you very much, Dan and Tony.
Thank you.